On this rainy Sunday, but it's a good Sunday, right?
Great Sunday.
How long did it take you to get here today?
About 20 minutes, not even 20.
Because you didn't take the expressway. You're smart, right? I took the expressway. It was slow and steady, but anyway, good evening, everyone, and thank you for tuning into the Voices of Change, only on Intellectual Radio. My name is Jan, and I'll be your host for the next hour.
And I'm Shamel, the co-host that does it all.
You certainly do. VOC is sponsored by African American Agenda. Today, for our weekly discussion, we will focus on the impact of the Chicago protest of 2016, shutting down the Trump rally. Our special guests, and we have a few of them, we're going to have someone who is actually there front and center. We're also going to talk to an organizer, and we will also be talking to Pastor Jedediah Brown. This promises to be an informative show, so call your friends right now. You're going to have a few minutes to call them. Call your friends right now and tell them all to tune in to IntellectualRadio.com. I always start my show off with scripture. For today, it's from 1 John chapter 2, verse 11. And it goes, "But anyone who hates a brother or sister is in the darkness and walks around in the darkness. They do not know where they are going because the darkness has blinded them." This scripture highlights hate and how one who hates walks around or conducts himself with moral blindness. If he walks in the darkness, there is no trace of God, for we all know God is light. If one walks in the light, one would have fellowship with one another. I applaud my city for taking a stand and not allowing divisiveness, for not allowing an encourager of aggression, and for not allowing one who perpetuates violence. Today, we will discuss the Chicago protest of 2016 and its impact.
We'll be right back after a quick break with our discussion. Stay tuned. We will be right back.
You've heard the word, and the message seemed directed right at you. Has been told, but do you really know? There's a tug of war going on for your very soul. When don't you dare twice? No, no, Jesus will save your life. Knocking on your heart, you hear him knocking. Open up the door. Let Jesus live inside you. Knocking on your heart, can you feel him knocking? Open up your heart. Let Jesus live. Came Nazareth. We understand what the pressures of this world can put feel his spirit calling you, drawing you. Friend, don't you dare delay. Give him your life today. For don't you hear him knocking? Open up the door. Let Jesus live inside you. Knocking on your heart. Can you feel him knocking? Open up your heart. Let Jesus in. Oh, oh, oh. Be born again. Be born again. For he's ready to love you and give you a new start. He's ready to turn your life all around. It's true, he's a mender of broken hearts. He's ready, he's saving. Come meet Jesus, he's the way. Yes, he is. Knocking on your heart. Don't you hear him knocking? Open up the door. Let Jesus live inside you. Knocking on your heart.
Okay, and we're back, and we're glad you're tuned into the Voices of Change. That was a real smart choice. Look at this panel. It's full of all these beautiful people. I have to my immediate left Frank Berg, and Frank has been an activist. I met him at my church, and he's involved in a lot of different efforts for equity and justice. And next to him, we have Nathaniel Lewis. He's from Ohio, and he's a graduate student at UIC in public policy, and he was an organizer, and he was also actually at the rally. And we all know the co-host with the most, Ms. Shamel. So we're going to start our discussion now. Good evening.
Good evening.
Okay, who wants to start off telling me about, okay, Nathaniel, you're going to defer to Nathaniel. I want you to tell me about when you organized it. How long did you know before the actual rally was supposed to happen?
So we were notified that Donald Trump was going to speak at UIC literally 7 days prior. So we didn't find out literally until the Friday before.
You had 1 week.
Yes.
1 week to organize it, and you did that. You did that much in 1 week?
And actually, the first meeting that we had wasn't even held until Monday. And so it was literally
5 days. Not even 5 days.
4 days and a little extra.
Okay, the question was asked, were there more supporters or protesters, or were there an equal amount? The media says it was about an equal amount, but I'm asking you since you were there.
It seemed like it wasn't, at first it seemed like there were more supporters than there were protesters, but following the announcement, it became evident that it was almost half, if not a little more than half of the people in attendance were protesters.
Wow.
And I think it was highly dependent upon where you were in the building.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, Nathaniel and I were standing right next to each other, probably within 100 feet of the podium, front and center, and then about 100 feet in front of all the media, which meant all the cameras.
So you were right there.
So
Yes.
we had intended to establish that position to be visible. And I can tell you that on the floor in that part of the arena, it was nowhere near half and half. It was overwhelmingly Trump supporters, and we were pretty outnumbered, I think, by the hundreds.
Significantly.
By the hundreds.
Let me ask this. Did they say things to you like they've done at other rallies? You know how they call name calling and all that? Did they do that?
They definitely, there was definitely some name calling, but again, that was more so after the announcement was made.
Okay.
Like following, like leading up to the announcement, it was more so of a situation when people were identified as possibly being a protester, or at least profiled that way. Mm-hmm. That's when the name calling from some of the supporters would take place.
And they would do it in your face? Like they would Like I'm looking at him and saying, you, whatever.
Oh, yeah. Closer than this.
And they were trying to get as close as possible. And the thing that was unfortunate was the fact that, again, I use the word profiling because it was no clear indication of whether or not someone was in support.
I was going to ask you if you had buttons on or something, or how did they know?
Sometimes it literally just came down to someone wearing a shirt that said "No hate" on it, and people literally took that as them being someone that was against Trump, which that's what I feel says a lot in itself. But anytime that anybody was indicated as being a possible protester, somebody would say, "They're one of them. There they go," and literally everybody would start chanting that, and then
oh my gosh,
whatever else people felt that was on their hearts at that moment would follow. And it was just like it was mass hysteria literally every single time something like that happened throughout the event.
Wow. There was a really compelling story that was told to me, and I looked on the internet on DNA. Oops, not supposed to say where it's at. About someone who the police took, and they took their stick and bludgeoned him. Would you be kind enough to tell that story to the audience? While you're doing that, I'm going to put Christina on.
Okay. Yeah, I would say this is an incident that is not directly related to Nathaniel or my participation, but there was, outside of the arena, there's obviously a lot going on, and a friend of mine was involved in an altercation where he ended up on the ground, and a police officer was basically pummeling him in the head with a nightstick. He was ultimately hospitalized and arrested. I would say he was taken by police to the hospital, where his room was guarded by police officers, and his friends were not allowed to access him while he was in the hospital, and then he was taken immediately to the jail. We don't know. There's a video online, and I think this is a person who I've been part of actions with. He's a person who I really look up to and admire. And the reflection, the actions that night are not a reflection of who he is. I think it's he was targeted, and I think we can. Time will tell kind of how the situation works itself out, but there's no reason to be hitting an unarmed, nonviolent protester and treating him in that way.
I actually saw the video, and what stunned me was the force that they were hitting him and continuously, having blows to the head. It could have easily struck him in his temple or struck him some other way. It could have hit the ground. That man could have died. And then They picked him up after head injury and trauma and paraded him through the crowd as if to say, now what do you want to do? The video was appalling. It was
horrific.
Yeah, it was. I have there are two men now here sitting with me that was both at the rally and one of the organizers who's also there. But I also have someone on the phone. I hope she can hear. I hope I didn't lose her. Christina, can you hear me? We'll try to get her back because we want to hear from women too, in any struggle. And I'm not saying that because I'm a woman, but I guess I am. In any struggle, there's always a equal balance of both men and women.
Christine, can you hear us?
I thought I heard. Hello, can you hear us? I don't think she can. Anyway, we're going to continue our discussion. So, Nathaniel, you weren't around to actually see this either when the young guy was.
No.
Okay, so you weren't there either, but you saw different things throughout the rally where they were kind of having little incidences throughout it. Did they walk out of UIC and continue protesting down the street? When I saw footage on television, it was like they were like parading almost down the street. Did that actually happen, or was most of it contained?
For the most part, it was contained.
Okay.
I think what created everything was carried out once the announcement was made.
Of the cancellation.
And mainly because of the fact that it doesn't appear as though the staff that was at the event knew that it was the announcement that it was going to be canceled.
Who decided to cancel it? I've heard different stories.
The claim is that it was this, Donald Trump's campaign that decided to make that call.
I can tell you what I saw, which is some man in a suit got up and took the podium and said Donald Trump is in Chicago. He said, at the recommendation of law enforcement, he will not be making an appearance tonight. And this event is postponed. He did not use the word canceled.
True. Oh, he said postponed.
Postponed. And you know, you have, I think that's probably Christine.
Hi, Christina. Oh, I'm glad you can hear me. Can you hear us? Okay. All right.
Good.
But
we're just saying.
I did hear that, but I also heard that the police did not direct them to cancel it. So that's why I don't know what's true and what's not.
Police released a statement which said they had no contact with the Donald Trump campaign
at all.
So if the man on the microphone was referring to law enforcement advising them, I mean, what law enforcement is there in this town other than the Chicago police?
Exactly.
But
I think maybe they just canceled it.
Yeah, that's what we were thinking. But it was that, and then there was evident that it was no clear procedure when it came to getting people out of the event. Because once the announcement was made, we looked around and we assumed that, you know, there would be a high security presence, you know, a lot of people in there to help escort people out.
Yeah.
But it wasn't. It literally was just us as those who were protesting, and then literally the Trump supporters. And so that literally, we literally came out together on the same side of Trump supporters. So it's like the people that were inside were, you know, intervening with, you know, the Trump supporters that were outside and exiting as well. And so there was no clear way of, you know, people's safety.
They didn't have, how Trump's rallies always get a little wild. And coming to a city like Chicago, everybody know historically, Chicago particularly, I mean, I can go way, way, way back historically to 1968 with the presidential. I mean, I can't believe that they wouldn't have protocols set. And then I read somewhere where the faculty and staff had advised UFC to cancel it before it even started because they anticipated something like this, and even worse.
Yeah, and there was a lot of people who voiced themselves as being upset with the fact that the event was taking place. But to our understanding, with the fact that the pavilion is a public place, that they aren't able to just deny him. And that's when the whole thing of freedom of speech comes into play. They're not able to deny him the opportunity to speak.
That's true.
You know, and hold the event there. And so because of that, that's when we, as individuals who are students at the university, decided to take a different initiative when it came to, you know, using our freedom of speech, you know, and using our right to assemble, you know, peacefully, and attend the event.
Christina, I didn't want to leave you out. Christine, I'm sorry. You were at the rally also?
Yes, I was.
Okay. Could you tell me from your perspective how you viewed the whole incident? Just a synopsis. Not trying to put you on the spot, but, you know, just to give me your view.
Sure, no problem. Yeah, you know, I think what was striking to me is that I was with Frank and Nathaniel and the others that were in front of the stage, and it was very clear from the beginning, after we arrived, that the group of Trump supporters who were down on the floor surrounding us, really, who were overwhelmingly white. There were no people of color on the floor that I saw who were Trump supporters, and outside of our group. And as soon as our group that was multiracial, primarily people of color, came onto the floor, the people around us were turning around and looking and saying things to one another under their breath. And looking at, you know, this group of young people with suspicion. And that was very clear. And as another reporter who was with us there on the floor wrote in an article that was posted earlier today, there was tension between our group before anyone ever knew for sure that we were there to protest Donald Trump. That was pretty striking to me, just being in that experience and being, you know, a white person. I was able to kind of float between the two and make small talk with the people next to me who were Trump supporters, trying not to give ourselves away. And it wasn't until the moment that all of us were celebrating that Donald Trump wouldn't appear that, everyone around us kind of turned on us and were screaming in our faces. But just the way that, the folks that were there in support of Trump acted towards me in comparison to the people that I was there in solidarity with to support was pretty striking.
Did you guys know prior to even doing this that violence may erupt? Did you know that there was a risk of that protesting? Just wondering.
I mean, yeah.
Okay.
And we made that clear from the beginning when we first started to organize and come up with a plan. And one of the biggest emphasis that we had was the fact that regardless of what anybody that's at the event may do that's supportive of Donald Trump, our philosophy was that we were going to be peaceful, nonviolent, because we want to make sure that we weren't targeted, or doing anything that would demean or take away from the message that we were trying to send across, which was, being against the rhetoric that promoted hate, discrimination, oppression and division. And so making sure that we were together as a collective and we were there as a unit. So there to protect one another in case something like that happened, and being able to remove, each other, move as a unit in solidarity when exiting the building as well, just for safety precautions.
Okay. So you kind of told them that we're going there really nonviolent. So if someone would have hit you, you kind of would have ushered him out or before it escalated.
Well,
I imagine. I'm just wondering.
We can say what did happen, which is people were attempting to provoke us the whole time. I mean, some individual in our group was wearing a Barack Obama hat, which there were a lot of hints about the composition of our group and why we might have been there. But at one point, there was a chant, about 100 people engaged in a chant all around us, surrounding us, take off your hat, and in this moment, there was a real choice of, do we engage with this? Do we try? I mean, is this something that's going to divide our group? Is this something? Are we being provoked? We're clearly being provoked. And I think we saw, even in the 2 hours we were standing there before the announcement that the speech would be canceled, there were at least a dozen different groups of protesters escorted out preemptively because they had been provoked by Trump support. And I think basically, if people don't want protesters to interrupt Trump, they try to get them kicked out before the speech starts.
And one of the things that we had set in motion going into this was the fact that we understood there were going to be some risks, especially when it came to people possibly being attacked. And so we had designated roles that one of the things that we had planned would put us in a position to be attacked. I personally had one of those roles of making sure that people were safe. And even when it came to how we went about carrying out the plan on the floor, it was very, very strategic to make sure that people who were at the most uncomfortable were in the center to make sure they were the most protected. And so while everything was going on, I had a big responsibility when it came to making sure that, if something happened, I'll be willing to take that hit. Mainly because I know at the end of the day, I don't have anything to prove anybody. I've had experiences that taught me that this is something that's important. And focusing on the bigger picture, I'm ready to defend someone who's brave enough to speak for themselves, who may not be able to protect themselves. And so we thought it out.
You thought it out in those 4.5 days. You thought a lot. How many protesters were they approximately? I know this is a huge. I know you probably can't hardly guess it, but if you were to guess, how many quantitatively would you say there was? Maybe
a couple thousand.
Okay. Really? Okay.
So we would definitely say a couple thousand. That was because of the way the tickets were sold. Or were distributed. Because the announcement was made to students about the event, and then everyone was able to go to the website to get tickets. And when the announcement was posted on Facebook for students that had the opportunity to get those tickets, then they literally they jumped at the opportunity. So we knew going in that there were going to be a significant amount of students that were likely going to be at this event on top of the ones that were organized, for strategic action.
Okay. Another question that's been brought up is, did you feel the police were pro-Trump?
I can't honestly, from my perspective, and this is just solely my perspective, I can't say that they were. I felt like it was evident that they wanted to make sure that they handled things the best that they could. And at the end of the day, one of the comments that were made when people were being escorted out, when they were profiled, it was the fact that this isn't my choice. This is just the protocol that I have to follow to ensure security.
Oh, I see.
And so it was more so, them wanting to make sure that they handle things, in the best way possible to make sure that, things did not escalate.
Okay.
And which I agree with.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Because no one wants things like that can get out of hand really easy. So.
Very easily.
I'd like to just say there's a difference between police being pro-Trump and police engaging in racial profiling. Mm-hmm. Just because Donald Trump and his supporters engage in racial profiling. But I think it was very clear to me that when I saw altercations between a presumably Trump-supporting white person and someone who was not white, I saw in multiple occasions when a police officer would approach that confrontation, they would ignore whatever happened on the white person and would engage directly with the person who, and from my point of view, seemed to have been provoked. And so when you're confronting an interaction and you ignore the aggressor, I don't know if that's pro-Trump, but it's also not necessarily fair.
I feel like that's affirming to the person that's committing like the aggression that they're entitled to do so, which feeds into the hysteria and the panic that was there that night. Absolutely.
Even there, they were profiling based on race, not on the aggressor, but on race. If it was me and a white girl, and if we had an exchange, and if the white girl was the aggressor, they would come to me and say, "What are you doing?" and probably pull me out.
Listen, that's why we were there.
Yeah.
Like there should not be events where you can tell who's a protester and who's not listen, like when we were on that floor, as Christine mentioned a minute ago, and Christine, you're welcome to elaborate on this. I felt that we weren't fooling anybody. And it was just simply, at first glance, the appearance of our group. There was no hiding, there were no secrets. And that type of discrimination is exactly why we were there. Racism, hatred, and xenophobia have no place in Chicago, and have no place in our nation, and have no place in the White House, quite honestly.
And it's funny.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead, Christine.
I would just say, in addition to that, I think that dynamic, whether it's Trump supporters who were there, or his Secret Service that might have been acting in a particular way, or UIC police and the Chicago Police Department, and how that they were engaging with protesters. I think that parallel is also why we're there, between the rhetoric that Trump promotes and speaks, and then the realities of how institutions in Chicago operate as well. And we saw a parallel between, the kinds of policies that we fear Donald Trump will advocate if he was in office, and the kind of policies that we see happening in Chicago, or practices even in Chicago, that uphold and reinforce white supremacy. And that was one reason why our shirts, which some of us wore, which also the messaging was also reflected in actions that were happening outside, included the hashtag Buy Anita, in reference to the upcoming election and unseating Anita Alvarez from her position. It was important for us to draw those connections, that this isn't just about Donald Trump, some outsider coming in to Chicago that we were rejecting, but also the racist policies and practices that are going on in our own city that we need to confront as well.
Excellent point.
In fact, that was the theme of the protest, where my friend was beaten by the police. They had taken over an intersection with the message, basically, Donald Trump, get out of our city and take Anita with you. I mean, buy Anita. I mean, and vote for anyone other than Anita Alvarez for state's attorney. And that is a direct result.
Kim Fox.
I mean, listen, like Anita Alvarez is probably as regressive as Donald Trump when it comes to criminal justice reform. There is not much difference, and local elections make a much bigger difference to us than national elections. You want to know? which election affects us most here in Chicago? It is not a presidential primary. This isn't even a presidential election. This is a primary. The state's attorney race is a real local election that has drastic impacts for us.
And that's critical. That's why it's critical Tuesday for everyone to go out there and vote. And from what I understand, even people that aren't registered can go there with a proper ID and vote. So please do so on Tuesday. There's no reason why you shouldn't. Can't tell you who to vote for. I can suggest, but I can't tell you who to vote for, but don't vote for Anita Alvarez. Okay, we're going to continue this discussion. Christina.
Yes.
Why do I keep calling her Christina? She's Christine, right?
Her name is Christine.
That's okay.
I don't know why I want to call you Christina. I went to school with someone named Christina. I'm sorry. I want to hear more from you. I've heard from the guys. Oh, I don't want to segregate it like that. I've heard from the panelists that are here now. And I want to hear a little bit more from you as far as did you feel threatened at all? Because like you were saying, they didn't know where you stood. And you were kind of there talking, and they didn't know. But at the point where they knew that, you were with the other guys, did you feel threatened at all as a woman?
Yeah, thank you for asking that, because even though I did feel that being white, I had a certain level of protection. I felt like, I don't think I could be underestimating them, but I don't think a Trump supporter, a white man or even a white woman, I don't think they're going to attack me physically. But I did actually, just even walking into the pavilion, I was starting to become very anxious just by the, just kind of the tone of voice and body language of the people around me. I was actually starting to have almost a panic attack as I thought about the ways that I've been, in some cases, physically assaulted in large groups like this, sexually assaulted. Wow. Those memories came back for me, and so that was something that made me very tense. And then, once they sort of found us out, I felt okay because we were together and we were linked arms, and Nathaniel was doing an incredible job of really looking out for everyone that was there, and kind of guiding us towards safety. I really felt that support from him and from my other group members. People were very, very close up in my face, yelling, and some of them were even saying derogatory things as it relates to, my gender. And so that was definitely frustrating, but I felt just the power and support from the other people in our group that I was going to make it out of there okay. But it certainly was kind of an uncomfortable place to be, and definitely a scary situation when we kind of revealed ourselves fully.
Well, I think I would have been spooked too.
It was just, I have to say, it was just a very interesting dynamic, really, because the way that we first had everything set up was the fact that it was intentional for those who would be on the floor to make up this plan were predominantly white or Caucasian. Like, that was intentional. Okay. And that was for symbolic reasons, understanding those who are not traditionally oppressed, understand that there is oppression going on, and they're willing to stand up for those populations that are traditionally have been marginalized. And so when we were first on the floor and we were first coming together as a unit, again, majority of the people around me were Caucasian or white. Mm-hmm. But what ended up happening was there was a good number of students that ended up just coming in to where we were at. I don't know if it was just the energy that we had and they were attracted over there and that's where they felt they were the most safe, but they ended up coming right to where we were. And I was, at that moment, I was like, well, I know that they're here for a specific reason. Like, I felt it. So mm-hmm. I was like, I'm going to include them on this. And so we literally started to formulate an even bigger plan when it came to this. So I started going around telling them, this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to do it. And it became more evident because then it became predominantly people of color that were in that area that were getting ready to carry out, the nonviolent initiative. Mm-hmm. And again, even then, more to that is the fact that majority of them were women. And so my biggest concern with that again was the safety.
Yeah.
Seeing the videos that have hit the media and how women and people have been assaulted physically, and verbally, and understanding like the emotional and psychological, trauma that can transpire from these type of experiences. It was important to me to make sure that anybody that was involved in this was more than comfortable and understood exactly how things were going to go. And so there was a lot of emphasis put on that, during that time that leading up to the actual event itself, when Trump was supposed to come out. We really made sure that people were okay. And we set it up that way. One thing that we tried to do was tried to create, because I don't know if anyone knew, but we were trying to create this unity circle.
Okay.
And the point of this unity circle was to have, again, that symbolism, and it was going to be constructed with everybody being linked arm in arm. Majority of the people that were on the perimeter were, again, being Caucasian or white, and again, showing that solidarity, protecting those, again, who are traditionally oppressed or marginalized. And those people specifically would be the ones that are on the inside. And so moving forward, the biggest priority was making sure those women that were there, the ones that really, really felt most uncomfortable, were directly in the center. And again, making sure that they knew when it was time for us to be escorted out, because we knew that UIC police were going to be the ones escorting us out, that we moved as a unit and we stayed together so that everyone was safe.
That was smart.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And that's what kind of brought Christine and I to the circle. I mean, we were on the perimeter, and we are affiliated with a group called Showing Up for Racial Justice, which is abbreviated SURJ, a nationwide group in over 100 cities of predominantly white people organizing predominantly white people for racial justice. The Chicago group has been around for about a year, and the SURJ members who were in the circle had shirts on underneath our outer clothing, basically T-shirts with the message, "White people, racism hurts us all."
Right.
And so we had expected Nathaniel, like he mentioned, to give a signal and carry out exactly the plan. We knew we were going to be on the perimeter. We knew if people were going to be push and shove, it might be us. Right. But that was kind of the terms of our participation. But we figured that would be happening on camera. We were right in front of the cameras, between the cameras and the stage. We figured the camera is that's your friend. That's as safe of a place as we can be is on camera. Except when that rally was canceled, and he did not, it didn't seem to have been any advance notice to the security or any of the personnel of the facility. So our plan for safety was to be on camera, and we were not on camera. And so in that moment, and there was that immediate period when everybody just starts going, we drove hours to see our hero, and you ruined it. And our group was scapegoated in that, and we were surrounded by hundreds of people and 0 cameras. We didn't even have time to bust out a cell phone camera to start taking video ourselves. So we dropped those shirts off, and we got locked arms, and we were fending for ourselves in the middle of that crowd.
And take into account the fact that throughout this time, leading up to that announcement, people were being escorted out. So you had people that were even more riled up every single time someone was escorted out. So for them, they were like, "Oh yeah, we're getting closer and closer, and there's less people that's going to be here to actually, prevent this from happening." I'm excited, and so when they hear an announcement like that where the event is canceled, especially knowing that, they've been there for that amount of time and they've seen all the things leading up to it, when it came to, them seeing that they're in solidarity and they're about to hear exactly what they want to hear, I definitely don't feel as though there was a protocol in place to effectively make sure that, things did not get out of hand.
That could have really got ugly. I'm so glad it didn't.
I mean, and there were people of color who were being provoked. You look around, there was some news footage, but I mean, the Unity Circle is something that's been used in other cities, in other Donald Trump disruptions. Like I mentioned, SURJ is a national group. SURJ has spearheaded several of those in other cities. But in this case, I mean, Nathaniel's organizing and the ability to get this group of people together in the absolute perfect position, on 5 days' notice. And I believe that had a lot. I mean, if you're in the middle of a presidential campaign, you don't cancel your rallies 5 days out from a primary. I'm sorry.
No, right.
There is one reason you would cancel that rally, and here it is. If you think what would happen to you on stage is more embarrassing than skipping your own rally.
Yeah.
And for him to think that it would be more embarrassing to take the stage than to skip it is a testament to the work of the organizers.
How did you get everyone together? Just how did you get the information? Now, was it by email at school? Did you send out a mass something on Facebook, a group? How did you get everyone to show up?
So what happened was there are 3 students that are undergraduate students at the school, and they took the initiative to create this Facebook profile.
Okay.
And they were the ones that initiated the access to the link via Facebook. And so that was the channel of communication for everybody when it came to when this meeting would be moving forward. After we had that meeting and we came to a consensus of who the primary organizers need to be, that's when myself, I was included with that, as well as 2 other students who were not initially involved.
Mm-hmm.
We ended up going about this, utilizing text messaging, group apps, apps that are encrypted messaging apps, so they could not be accessed by anybody but
use
us.
Technology.
And we also use mass media, or the mass emails. But
Okay.
again, we were very specific with what the information that we put on those emails, and it was more so for communication of the things that we wanted specifically to be out there. The intent behind the movement, a specific message that spoke to, opposition of that rhetoric, again, that spoke to things that were undermining of who we are as people and the experiences that we've had in this country.
Mm-hmm.
And again, a call to action. And so once we were able to identify the people specifically who could be representatives from their different cohorts or their peer groups,
Mm-hmm.
again, because we wanted this to be a thing of people being individuals. We didn't want anybody to, feel coerced to have their group or have any type of university affiliation with this. We wanted them to understand that this is something where you have the right as an individual, as well as being a student at the university, you are allowed to attend this event. We wanted to make sure that when we got that message out, we did it in a way that was effective and did not take too much time.
Apparently it did, and it didn't. 4 days.
That's right. 4 days.
Wow, this has been great. I want to thank all of you. Christine, I got the name right finally. Nathaniel, and of course you too, Frank, for coming on the show. I really appreciate it, and I appreciate all of you for going out there and taking a stand for Chicago.
Yeah.
This is going to go down in history. So when you
Yeah.
have children and grandkids, they're going to talk about the protest of 2016 when Donald Trump wanted to come to Chicago. And you stopped it. So I want to applaud all of you. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
We're going to go on a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Lord, you know everything I've done, every thought I've had. You know everyone, and Lord, you know every time I fall, still you come to my rescue when I call. And Lord, you hear every idle word, every plea. Oh, how it seems absurd that, Lord, you give not what I am due, but mercy. You come to my rescue. You come to my rescue. To my rescue. Yes, you do. Rescue. You keep on coming, yeah. To my rescue. You come to my rescue. Oh, Lord, you care, and you've become my friend. Oh, amazing love. Boundaries have no end. And Lord, you show what a greater love can do. I'm there for my rescue. And Lord, I give all that I can give. It's hard to tell you just how grateful I am, but I'm still gonna make it show. With every breath, gonna let you know. I can't comprehend how I can be worth the call when I was bound, despised, and lost. I was lost. Lord, you keep on coming, yes you do. Come to my rescue. Yes you come to my rescue. He's always there for me. Rescue. Be right there for me. Oh, I don't deserve it, but you love me anyway. I don't know why you do what you do, but you come to my rescue. To my rescue. You keep on coming, you keep on coming. Rescue. When I fall down, Lord, I can call on you. Rescue. Always there for me. To my rescue. You keep on coming, you keep on coming. Rescue. Lord, we want to thank you. Rescue.
Thank you for tuning in to the Voices of Change. I hope you saw the last segment. It was absolutely fabulous. I was hoping that Jedediah Brown would call in, but I guess he got probably tied up with some of his other duties. But I'm going to read a statement that he wrote himself, and it was submitted, and I saw it on the BBC website. And it goes, "My name is Pastor Jedediah Brown. You may have seen me at the Donald Trump rally last night protesting. I'm proud to have stood beside men and women from all sides of Chicago to defend our home turf against hateful rhetoric. When things get bad, sometimes unfortunate situations have to take place. As a protester, it was my role to draw attention to a grievance I know to be legitimate. As security, it was their job to remove me from the stage. I have no ill feelings towards security, and I hope they made it home safe to their families. Some people question how I could be an anti-violent activist and throw a punch. If you look at the photo, you will see that I was placed in a chokehold before I threw a punch. While I oppose violence, especially in communities where violence turns deadly, often that doesn't mean I relinquish my right as a human being to defend my life. Being an anti-violence activist doesn't mean I will let you kill or harm me. Even with the protest taking place, Donald Trump could have addressed the crowd. Maybe not as he intended, but it was a perfect opportunity for him to show how he will bring the country together, as he claims he can do. I don't expect you to understand the cause that so many of us have taken up. What I hope you can do," he said, "is ask yourself, what would you do to fight for a cause you care about? What would you do to protect your community against hate and prejudice? You may not understand my struggle, but reach out to me, and I promise I'll try and understand yours." And then he ends with, "God bless everyone." And that was from Pastor Jedediah Brown. If you're listening and if you're available, feel free to call in. The number is 708-223-8953. We only have a couple more minutes on the show. So what'd you think about the guest? They were intriguing, weren't they?
They were amazing, educated.
I love the strategy.
Yes.
To do all that in 4 days.
My question was just my main question. How did you get it out?
How did you galvanize
Because there was so many.
all those? That was awesome. And that Nathaniel was the main UIC organ. You know, there were other groups. Don't get me wrong. There were other groups who were there. But we all know UIC had a huge presence. It was on their campus. It was on their yard.
Of course.
And he was the one that spearheaded that.
Amazing.
I thought it was pretty cool. We're going to go to a quick break, and we will be right back. If you want to give us a call, we have only a minute. You can call us at 708-223-8953. We'll be right back. This song is by a friend of mine. She goes by the name of Tayabe. It's a brand new song. It's called Set Free. From Voices of Change. Who am I talking to?
You're talking to Romaine.
Hello, Romaine. How are you?
I'm doing great. I just wanted to compliment you on that wonderful show. It was amazing listening to these young men and women and their courage, inspiration to all of us. In a year that's so important, 2016, the vote, and who we want to do, where we want to take our country in the next years to come. It's so important. And to see young people so involved, it just inspires us all. And I just want to say thank you for showing those guys and that young lady that you interviewed. Wonderful. I love the letter that you read from the Reverend. He really said it. You gotta, sometimes you do have to stand up and you have to fight. You have to believe in something. And I think it was great. Thank you, girls, again. You guys did a wonderful job.
Thank you so much for calling in. I too was so impressed by the young men, particularly the organizer, Nathaniel and Christine. Nathaniel actually spearheaded the whole effort at UIC. There were other organizations with it, but he was the one that did it in a little less than 5 days, in 4.5 days. And what he did with technology and strategy was awesome. And it is good to see, we always talk about young people. Well, I encourage young people to come to the forefront, and it's so good to see them being movers and shakers. There's a lot of them out there, and they need to be applauded. Thanks for your call.
No problem. Bye.
As I travel on my journey, I've learned some things along the way. Not to steal, beg, or borrow. Don't cross no toll that I can't pay. Now in my search for inspiration, I've learned to take what life gives. Sometimes sweet or maybe bitter, but it's always meant for me. Do I turn and walk away? Do I wait the word to say? Should I not show how I feel when I know my truth is real? Does the texture of my head call for you to stop and say? And everything I feel was made to keep me free. Who the sun set free? 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 Now that I have traveled farther in my life, I've tried some things. How not to let nobody stop me from achieving all my dreams. I don't think that I'm gonna know it, and I have done my share of dirt, but I know that grace is safe. I know the value of my word. Oh, should I turn and walk away? Do I wait a word to say? Should I hide or just reveal how I am and keep it real? Does the texture of my head call for you to stop and say? And everything I feel was designed to keep me free. Who the sun set free?
And that's a song by Chicago's own Tiabe, and it's called Set Free. That's Chicago's own Tiabe. As we close our discussion on the protest to shut Trump down, I would like to share a quote from Pastor Michael Flager. He said, "I never advocate violence, but not surprised that a man who speaks anger, hate, and violence finds it coming back. The chickens come home to roost." While some of us were expressing our anger at Trump in the city on Friday, 4 people were killed, 12 wounded. Now, what are we going to do about that? Let's shut that down also. And I agree with Pastor Flager. As Brother Malcolm once said, a man who stands for nothing will fall for anything. I want to thank our guests who appeared, Nathaniel, Frank, and Christine. I want to thank them and all the protesters that stood up for Chicago. Thanks for standing, Chicago. Now let's continue standing and stop some of these injustices and this unrelenting violence. Our time is up. Special thanks to our special guest. And also special thanks to my well-versed, beautiful, young, educated co-host, Ms. Shamel. And of course, to you, listening audience. Tune in next week on Sunday at 6 p.m. Have a blessed week and stay positive, for your attitude determines your altitude. Jan signing off from Voices of Change. Until next time.
Shamel, until next week.
Be blessed.
You're broken down and tired.